Hey, greetings. Welcome to week 5. This is lecture 2, and we are in the midst of, I think, a pretty practical setting of investigating the 10 saboteurs to our neighboring. In the last lecture, I think we began the conversation. Now, remember, we've been in this sort of practical application cycle. We read The Art of Neighboring. We've done our oikos mapping. Perhaps even as you did your oikos mapping, some of what I'm going to talk about in terms of the saboteurs may even be one of the reasons why you haven't connected with someone in a while on your oikos map. So this may help maybe even give voice to or give name to some of the things that you might be feeling. So we've talked about the insecurity or that gospel manipulation. We've talked about collecting friends as trophies. We've talked about the failed follow-up. When you've planned to do something but then you didn't, and then it got too far away, and then you felt awkward and ultimately embarrassed. And then we talked about the missed event that comes in someone's life when you should have been there but you weren't, and the awkwardness and embarrassment of trying to reinsert yourself back into a situation after something significant has happened. The fifth one is what I call excuse making, or they're probably busy. I see this happen with a lot of people. We recognize that we're all busy, and so we don't reach out because the assumption is, I can't reach out because they've probably already got something going on. And so we start making decisions and opting out for people even before we've asked them. And so we see what's going on in their life. We know that they've got lots going on with their kids or with their family or with their work. And so we say to ourselves, I don't want to add that burden to them, so why would I reach out? And yet what we fail to realize is that sometimes the friendship, the neighboring, is precisely the release valve that these folks needed from their already busy life. That maybe they did have a lot going on with their family or with their kids, but what they really needed was that deeply rooted friendship, that sense of offering of ourselves in caring and compassion and empathy and vulnerability to them and being with them, and maybe we become those who help them to break those cycles of busyness by rerouting them into meaningful relationships. So I would encourage you that instead of making excuses for someone by suggesting you know already what their answer is going to be, I would encourage you to give them the chance to make that decision. Let them tell you if they're busy. They may say to you, yes, you're right, I am busy this week, but next week I have time and I would love to get together because you are a gift to me and I love you deeply, and I want to make sure that I make time and space for you in my life. And so I want to encourage you to avoid making excuses for other people. The sixth one, this is one that I see happen a lot. This is what I call the BFF trap. We all need that person, right? That like, this is my person. It's that, and we use the language BFF in today's culture, or at least we did. I don't know. I'm old, so I miss these kind of trends. But there is this language of this is my BFF. Now, what I've seen happen to this is that too often, once you get your BFF, like, this is the only thing that I need. And what happens becomes very possessive. And so it becomes a love that is ultimately possessive of this friendship, because this is my person. This is my friendship. And once someone has staked claim in someone else, then everyone else that might come into the picture could be a threat to that BFF relationship. And I want to really caution Christians against the BFF trap, because what that means is, this is my person. They can't, there's not enough love to go around. There's not enough shared love. And so it becomes possessive and controlling and manipulative. And some of us have been in those relationships, and some of us have done that to other people. And we've got to be cautious and aware of the way in which that begins to creep into our lives. So avoid the BFF trap. What that means is, you create a sense of openness in your relationship, and you don't get jealous every time your BFF is with someone else doing something that you weren't invited to. You've got to be able to own a sense of security about yourself, so that even if you didn't make the trip, even if you didn't get to go to the game, even if you didn't get to find yourself in a place. Now, if you find yourself being BFF'd, meaning that someone has staked a claim in you, you've got to have those intentional conversations with people and say to them, no, I love you and care for you deeply, but I got plenty of love to go around for others who are going to enter into my circle, and I want you to know that. And we're both going to be blessed by our engagement with people who are not just us, okay? So you want to make sure and clarify that in the relationships that come about as they emerge. The next one, I think, falls right on the back of the BFF trap, and this happens, I think, a lot of times in churches, especially with small groups, is what I call the closed tribe. Now, I'm a big fan. We all need a tribe. Now, I had a pastor friend of mine in my last church, one of my staff members, who really cautioned me in the use of the language of tribe, and at first I was resistant to their admonition, but then I also began to realize what they were saying and how important it was. This idea of tribe can feel like a closed-off, boundaried group where no one else gets to enter into. And if that's how we understand our tribalism, and we find our group, we find our team, we find our tribe, however we want to call those people, and we become comfortable and we invest in each other and we make time for each other, but there's no room for anyone else to join, especially no one who's already not much like us, then what we have is not a tribe, we have tribalism. And tribalism sets boundaries, and it defends, and it has a posture of keeping the stranger out. If we're going to use the language of tribe, we're going to have to understand tribe as a collective group of people that share meaningful relationships, but who are also open to other relationships, who are also forging opportunities to create space, because we know we've got each other's back to invite the person who maybe not get an invitation otherwise into a group. So I would encourage you to even look at, when you enter into your churches and you begin to understand, like the Sunday school classes, the small group ministry, however they, ask your question: do I have a closed tribalism, or do I have an open tribe that is deeply engaged in each other's lives, but open to those who are yet to be a part of them? Because I think that has a lot to say about the kinds of hospitality that we offer, about how much we feel like we need new people in our lives, how much we feel like we benefit from new people being in our lives, and how much someone who comes in that hasn't been a part of us will feel at home or welcomed to be a part of what we are doing and who we are. The next one, so let's rehash a little bit. Insecurity, this idea of gospel manipulation. I'm only in relationships so that I can get somebody to do something. Collecting friends as trophies so that I can show them off to my Christian friends. Look how I am friends with the other. Failed follow-up. We made a decision. We needed to do something. I didn't call. They didn't call. We didn't call together. And then it got awkward and ultimately embarrassing. I didn't know what to do, so I never called it at all. Number 4, the missed event, which again is this idea that I've missed something significant. Now I don't know what to do. No, I've got to eat humble pie. Now I don't know how to move forward through this, which requires a sense of humility and confession. This idea that they're probably busy making excuses for people even before they have a chance to say for themselves. The BFF trap: I've got my person, and my person is my person, and you don't get to be my person, or you don't have access to my person. The closed tribe: this is our group, we got our thing, which becomes tribalism, versus the open tribe, which means we care deeply for each other even as we're open to those outside of ourselves. And then how about the absence of curiosity? I see this all the time. In fact, I was having dinner with some friends not too long ago, and one of the things they were talking about is some friends that had come into their life, and they're like, man, we struggle with them because never in the entire time that we've been together, been in a relationship, have they ever stopped to ask us questions about us. It's always about them. And I think one of the best ways to neighbor well is to be as curious as you can be with someone else. Make their story your priority. Want to know who they are, understand what they do. Be incredibly engaged and interested in who they are, how they live, how they work, the stories that have shaped their lives. Get to know them deeply. There's something profound about the curiosity of wanting to understand someone. And don't do it. Don't ask leading questions so that ultimately you can end up talking about yourself. But really give them a sense of space to be able to explain, to express, give voice to who they are. Because you'll never realize that it's perhaps you might be the first person that's taken that kind of keen interest in who they are and how they live and why they do what they do. So I want to encourage you to make sure that you remain curious about other people. The 9th one is this sense of woundedness that comes when you feel like they didn't call you, or no one calls me, or I always have to make the first move. Now, there is something genuine about a failed sense of mutuality, right? And we've got to be aware of that. But if you are friends with an introvert, then you might have to be the one who takes the first step each time. And that's probably rooted in their personality. Hopefully there's some shifting where they'll take it when they need it. But if you tend to be a little bit more extroverted than the person that you're reaching, you may be the one that's stepping into or saying something. There are people who are wounded by life, who feel insecure about themselves, who assume that other people don't really want to be in relationship with them. And so when we take those steps, when we show the initiative, when we lean in, when we continually engage, it is a reminder to them that someone cares, and you are slowly re-narrating their story. Where their story once said, people don't really want to be with me, so why would I bother even reaching out or calling? You're saying, no, you matter to me, and you are awesome, and I love you, and I care about you, and I will call you, and I will invite you, and I'll give you the space to even say no, but the next time I'm going to call you again. I've been in friendships with people who are deep introverts, who have at times put me at arm's length and said, give me a minute, and I'll just say to them, I'm going to give you a minute, but the next time I'm going to ask you again, and they'll laugh and say, okay, maybe next time I'll be ready. And that's fine, that's okay. But being able to show the initiative, be able to take those steps, I think is key to our ability to neighbor well and to care about people well as we seek to build those relationships. Don't simply wait for them to contact you. And the last one is what I call the lifestyle convenience trap. Man, I am an empty nester. Okay, my wife and I, we're empty nesters. Our boys are in college. It would be so easy for us only to build relationships with those who are also no kids or empty nesters, because it's convenient, easy to go out to dinner, all of those things. And yet the Lord has dropped us in the midst of a set of relationships with friends who are our age, but have kids that are like 2 and 3 years old. And our lifestyles don't simply match, right? Like, there's not a freedom that they once had through much of their 20s and 30s that we didn't have when we were in our 20s and 30s. But I can't just fall prey to the trap of convenience and say, well, then that's not our people. No, because God has afforded us now the luxury of a time and season in our life where we get to make the investment in people who are at a different stage, different place, different moment in their lives. And so I want to encourage you to take stock and to reflect well. And to reflect, sorry, you probably heard my dogs in the back. It's because a deeply loved and cared friend of ours just showed up and they just went nuts. That's also what happens in the real world. But one of the things I want to say to us is, and I think this is really important, that is take stock of your season of life, where you are, who you are, and understand that it's going to mean stepping out of that comfort or that convenience from time to time. You're going to have someone that you're going to care about that's going to get sick and they can't get out very much, and you're going to be spending time with them in their space. You may have kids, and you'll have to facilitate ways of having a relationship with people without kids. You won't have kids, and you're going to have to facilitate relationships with those who do have kids. Just the other day, I think I'm not in great shape right now. I'm not working out a lot, and one of our friends, she sent a mass text to our group, and she said, "Hey, does anybody want to go to work out at Barry's this in the morning at 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock?" I'm going, but my husband is staying with our son at home, and several of us were like, no, we can't go, whatever. And so then I sent a message back, and I just said, hey, listen, I am not in the kind of shape to go work out at Barry's right now, but I would come over and watch your son if the two of you want to go work out together, because you don't get to do that very often. And she was like, no, we're not going to do that this time, but we'll keep that in mind. And really what we wanted to be able to say is, Angie and I, is that we're in the season of life where we can do that. Like, we can give them the break that other people gave us back in the day. And so you have to be able to understand the kind of convenience that we are allured to, but it becomes a saboteur to the legitimacy of our relationships. So what I wanted to do over the course of this week's lecture is just explore some nuts and bolts of relationship building and the kinds of saboteurs that can ultimately impact our relationships in a really negative way. So we've got insincerity, we've got collecting friends as trophies, failed follow-up, missed events. They are probably busy excuse, the BFF trap, the closed tribe that becomes tribalism, the absence of curiosity, that that they didn't call me first, or a lifestyle convenience trap? I want you to take a look at those, and for your response, drill down. Figure out which ones affect me the most. Which one am I most prone to? I can tell you from my own story, probably the failed follow up and the missed event. I am a perfectionist, so if I feel like I've missed something or let someone down, it's really tough for me to come back from that. I don't always know how to navigate that, and it's easy for me to keep pushing that off. That's just me. But maybe one of these other ones have you or you've fallen prey to. So I really want to encourage you to take a look at your own life in light of these saboteurs, and let's discuss them in the discussion post. Thanks, and look forward to being with you in week 6.